So with academics and behavior, we teach those through our core instruction. Here is the layers of support and how that is divided. We have the differentiated core, where all students are receiving core instruction, and then there's this added layer of supplemental support on top of the core, where we do not remove, but we add. And then with the intensive support, there is another layer. While receiving the core and the supplemental support, we add that intensive support on top of the layers. So here are some quick facts for you to review. The first one is that all staff and students are part of a multi-tiered system of support. It's everyone meeting all students all of the time. MTSS utilizes a systematic problem-solving model to analyze multiple pieces of data to determine how all students are responding to instruction, which brings in the RTI. Teams problem solve in the areas of instruction, curriculum, and environment. MTSS is a layering of academic and behavior supports, as we saw in the last slide. All students have access to all the layers of instructional support all of the time. This is not a design strictly for EC services.
So now let's take a deeper dive into each of the tiers. Tier 1, that's going to be our core instruction. And you'll see a core instruction document here shortly if you haven't seen it already. Is our core instruction strong enough? Does it focus on all students across our grade level and monitor their response to our instructional practices and our instructional changes that we're making in our classroom as we differentiate in Tier 1? So we are focusing on all students across all grade levels. So Tier 1, who does it affect? It affects all students. It's for all students. So here's what we have control over in thinking about Tier 1. We can control our evidence-based practices and the programs, the resources, the strategies that we use to produce positive academic behavior for the majority of our students. So in Tier 1, we focus on our instructional practices, our curriculum, our pacing, and how we group students, so the environment in our classroom. And we measure our effectiveness by using this SMART goal right here. If at least 80% of all students in all subgroups are meeting academic and behavior benchmarks with core support alone. So 80% of all students are meeting their benchmark goals in Tier 1. That is our measure of effectiveness.
Tier 2, supplemental instruction. This is where you add an additional layer of support when you have students that aren't responding to the core instruction. So who are these students? They're needing that supplemental support in addition to the core instruction. That's approximately 20% of your students because 80% are being successful at the core. This is quick access for those students. So what does that look like? It's evidence-based practices and programs that's demonstrated to improve academic and behavior performance in core Tier 1. And then what is the difference do we see in core instruction as a result of the supplemental instruction? So this would be, as you're providing your core, you're adding that layer of support, which could be more differentiated instruction. It could be an instructional support team leader to help team teach or provide additional instruction or focused intervention. And so the effectiveness, if at least 70 to 80% of students improve academic and behavior performance towards the core on their benchmarks, then we know that that supplemental instruction is being effective.
So this can be something really subtle. How do we gauge our effectiveness? Let's look at the most subtle ways we've already implemented supplemental tools in Tier 2. How many of you have had a student who needs to move closer to the board because he or she can't see? Was that a successful academic intervention? Yes. Have you ever had two students who can't get along? None of us, I know. But imagine you had two students who couldn't get along. You'd probably move them to opposite sides of the room. See if that's effective. If it is, there's no need to send that child to ISS. They don't need to be suspended from school. Level 2, the slightest, most subtle supplemental support was effective.
So with Tier 3, this is your intensive instruction. We're not removing the students from the core instruction. We've added that supplemental layer of support, and when that is not being effective, then we go to the intensive layer where we add another layer on top. And so students needing intensive support in addition to that supplemental and core instruction, which will be approximately 5% of students. Students are typically a few years behind. So what does that look like? Those are, again, those evidence-based practices and programs demonstrated to improve their academic and behavior performance in identified skill areas. This is something that's going to be unique that we're not seeing in the core or in the supplemental levels. So in the effectiveness of students improve academic and behavior progress in the identified skill areas, progress toward those core standards, we're reaching all students all of the time. This intensive support is not just for EC students or for AIG students. It's for all students all of the time.
So I think the beauty of multi-tiered systems of support is we tend to think of this as DEPs, IEPs, 504s, things we've done in the past, and that is true. But the beauty of utilizing the multi-tiered systems of support is the movement through the tiers. If you're teaching scientific notation, I might be the greatest student, and you might differentiate my work. You might assign me as an AIG student a different project. Well, when we move on to integers, rational numbers, guess what? I might need supplemental support for a different reason. I'm not grasping the concept. Do I need an IEP for math? No. I'm just struggling with fractions or integers or whatever. So I think we need to remember the subtleties throughout the tiers because, as Jennifer was just saying, this is not removing the student from the classroom.
And students that are giving or receiving that intensive support do not have to stay at that core intensive support level. They can move through the tiers at any time when the instruction is being effective and the student is moving forward and achieving progress.
Thank you guys so much.
Okay, let's recap all of the sources that we have available to us where we can collect data for our students that is going to help us to better serve all of our students. So this year we've really dived into common assessments, and the examples of it here are things that we've tried to talk with you about. It can be a math problem of the week, writing samples, science journals, other student work. It doesn't have to be here's a test that is going to take an entire class period. It's just a snapshot. Do they know it or do they not know it? The other forms of data collection that we see are state and district assessment data, formative classroom assessment. So, you know, thumbs up, thumbs down. Did you understand this concept or did you not? What do you think? And then also the benchmark common assessments, and then data about people, practices, and perceptions. So our ASSIST survey, our Bright Bite survey, our Speak Up survey, all of those things are our working conditions survey. All of those things we take into account to determine whether or not we're meeting the needs of all of our students. So just a reflective question here. What is our current state of data analysis? Think about you in your own classroom. And then think about our entire school and your entire grade level. What is our current state of data analysis? And here's some things to just kind of put up the yield sign. We need to make sure that we aren't using data to punish. We aren't using it as a result of their circumstances that might be out of their control. We aren't using it to jump to conclusions about maybe what a child needs that isn't backed up by the data. And but we are using data to focus on improving instruction without looking for just like a quick fix based on the data. And are there any other safety regulations to ensure or to usher a safe environment where students can come and know that no matter what tier they're on, based or for whichever standard or objective, that their needs are being met, behavior and academic. Thanks so much for watching. This is the end of the MTSS rollout, phase 3, and thank you so much for taking the time to watch this and to take this quiz. If you have questions or are unclear about all of this information, it is a lot of information. Jennifer and I and other members of your instructional support team will be in your PLCs on Thursdays and are around to answer your questions and to field your concerns. So please don't hesitate to let us know what you have concerns about, what you have questions about. We're here to support you. Thank you.